Hello everybody, EternallyPrussian here, now for the long-awaited and very long since overdue, Know Your Allies Volt. Volt is a frame that focuses almost entirely on electricity, as you can gather by his name, and a few updates ago used to be the ideal Corpus killing machine. If you wanted to take a Corpus mission by any means, you would be choosing Volt, and he would just absolutely destroy whatever he came into contact with. It is not so much the same way anymore, but Volt still serves as a highly effective mechanism to defend against the Corpus. His shock procs, just everything he has to offer makes him really effective in that area, and his two non-ultimate, not first ability, his speed and electric shield, still serve as excellent backup to the team, even outside of the Corpus realm. It's just all around helpful. So we'll be taking a look at him today. I'll also be explaining a little bit about why I chose what weapons I've chosen and how I built him. So let's get the ball rolling by taking a look at his first ability, Shock. Shock went from a single target nuke effect to being a multi-target that chains. As you saw in the video, when I fired at one crewman, it linked instantly to another and triggered the shock proc on both of them. I've seen it trigger up to 5, but nothing more than that. It's just simply good for stunning a few enemies and just laying into them with the help of your teammates. It's still very effective and actually is more effective than it used to be, though it may deal a little bit less damage. Again, he's not quite the killer he used to be, but he is still absolutely incredible. The next ability he has is Speed. Speed is just a generally good buff all around, no matter what mission you're on. Any ally within a pretty reasonable area of you will be given the speed buff. I could not tell you for the life of me how much faster you're going, but I'd say it's at least 100% faster, given how quickly I've seen some frames run under the effect of speed. You can use it to catch up, to fall behind a little bit, or what am I saying? To catch up, to go ahead a little bit, or if you buff it on yourself, you can catch up if need be. You can go back to get an ally much quicker, you can have other people go back. It has a lot of uses and is just a really good buff in general. Helpful for Volt considering his very low armor, and if your shield starts going down you can zip away in an instant. His third ability is Electric Shield. Electric Shield is good against pretty much every faction, with the exception of the Infested. Any bullets, or most bullet-like projectiles, will hit the shield and pretty much just not do anything. Anybody who fires through the shield has a tiny little bit of electric damage added to what they do, and nothing goes through the shield, basically, if it's a type of bullet. The things the shield does not reflect are fire hazards from napalms, bombard missiles, any melee sort of ability. Those will pass right through the shield, as well as there used to be a glitch where pentagrenades and Ogre's missiles would hit the shield and explode, pretty much killing you or your teammates. I'm pretty sure that's been patched, but I'm not exactly up for testing that in a public match, so I wouldn't risk it. But any bullet projectile or laser projectile like that is stopped by the Electric Shield. It does not stop Shockwave MOAs, and it does not stop anti-MOAs. Those will still deal damage, and Shockwave will still knock you over. But anything else that hits the shield from the other side, it does nothing as long as it's a bullet projectile. This means you can revive an ally pretty easily, and the duration is fairly nice, but that's only protecting you from one side. The moment an enemy switches sides, Electric Shield doesn't have much more use. On to his last ability, which is Overload. Overload continues to be one of my favorite ultimates out of pretty much any Warframe. The amount of power he packs in that single ability is just incredible. Though it may have a second or so delay for enemies that are a little bit away from you, which makes sense, it just sends all machinery and circuitry haywire, and it causes a really powerful shock proc. Again, Overload is not so useful against Grineer and is basically null against Infected, but if you use it in a Corpus area, you will find that there are massive damage numbers to be racked up, and the shock proc will serve as certainly more than helpful. It's just an all-around wonderful ability. Now, why my abilities cost so little is I maxed out power efficiency, something that is very worth it on Volt. Speed doesn't really suffer, and Electric Shield's duration, they don't really suffer from the increased efficiency but reduced duration. They still both have really good duration on them, and it's just wonderful to max out power efficiency on Volt because you can continually shock and you can repeatedly overload if you're having a lot of trouble, which pretty much stun locks enemies to death if you can pull it off. Now, a thing to note about Volt is that even though you should probably go for as high shield capacity as possible, you also want to get a big chunk of health. The reason being that Volt has basically 0 armor, and if you run around with 990 shield and basically 200 or 300 health, never mind the fact that even with 660 health, I find Volt's health basically disappearing if his shield is down. You will die almost instantly if you keep him at low health, because his armor rating is basically close to 0, so if you get hit by health, considering the waves of Corpus that like to come at you and how rapidly they fire, you can get yourself almost instantly killed. Speed and Electric Shield have a huge help with this, and the fact that he can stun lock enemies with a bunch of shock procs or overload is sort of a counter to that, but it really won't be that helpful if you're a bit low on energy or you get caught off guard really badly. That's one thing you really need to keep in mind about Volt, is that he may have incredible shielding, but his armor and his health can vanish in an instant, and I've had it happen. I've fallen out of position once or twice by accident, and I just got steamrolled without question. I picked these weapons, the Boltor, the Akbolto, and the Kogake, simply because the Boltor used to be a really, really overpowered weapon. Is less so, but it still deals some pretty heavy damage for an assault rifle. The Akbolto I picked because, never mind the viral proc, I took the Akbolto at level 12 on a mission on Pluto, and the Akbolto legitimately were wrecking the enemies on Pluto, no issue. So I would recommend it without a doubt. Even a single Bolto isn't that bad, but the Akbolto are wonderful. I picked the Kogake because I knew that when it came to Corpus heavier units and heavy shielded units, I could initiate really quick strikes. I could knock enemies over, like the big ones like Tex I could knock over, and especially with speed, where you can send enemies absolutely careening into the sky, because I've seen some Grineer go up and they didn't come down. So something like that is extremely helpful. Plus the rapid strikes of the Kogake means if you have one enemy you really need to target, you can beat them down almost instantly, and that'll deal a lot of the times a killing blow. And you can run around, you can use Electric Shield for anybody, you can use Electric Shield and have the Kogake kill anybody that tries to get past it, etc., etc. So that's how I built Volt, that's what I think of him, and those are the weapons I gave him and the reasons why. I highly recommend Volt. It might be a little bit biased because he's a favorite frame of mine, but I highly recommend Volt for anybody who's annoyed by Corpus missions or wants that really nice blend he has available. So, with that said, that is it for Eternally Prussians. Know your allies. I will see you later.